want to start this podcast off just sharing a story that I read recently. So there were two writers, really world-renowned writers, Kurt Vonnegut, who wrote the book Slaughterhouse-Five, and Joseph Heller, who wrote the book Catch-22. Now, for those of you who are book nerds, or if you just know about these two guys, you know how popular their two books are. Like, these guys are world-renowned writers. I have the book Catch-22. I actually need to read it, but I've heard a lot of good things about how it teaches you decision making in the book. But anyway, so the two of them were at a party. It was a billionaires party, and they were talking to each other. And Kurt Vonnegut turns to Joseph Heller and says, "Hey, how does it make you feel to know that our host made more money just yesterday than you've made writing your famous and popular book Catch-22?" And Joseph Heller looks at him and says, "I've got something that he'll never have." And Kurt Vonnegut looks at him and says, "My guy, what do you mean you've got something he'll never have? I just told you this dude has more money than you can even understand. How does that even make any sense?" And Joseph Heller looks at him and says, "I've got enough. I've got enough." You see, in the United States, the idea of enough is very foreign to us. I won't say just the United States, in general. The idea of having enough is very foreign to us. It is something we can't possibly fathom. I mean, in the United States, we think about just GDP as a whole. We say that GDP is how well the economy is doing. Generally, is the estimate we use is gross domestic product. And when the economy is not doing well, or if we go into a recession, what that means is we've had 2 quarters of negative GDP. In other words, negative growth. And if you look at what exactly goes into GDP, gross domestic product, it is 70% consumer spending. You and I going out and buying different things or buying different services. 70% consumer services. In other words, if we look at GDP and people decide, I am not going to spend as much money, I am not going to do as much stuff, generally it is seen as a bad thing. It is seen as a bad thing. And so the economy must ever be growing. And if that is not happening, then something is definitely wrong. Something is definitely wrong. Now, there's a lot of economists that are pushing back and saying, we need to look at GDP for the country as a whole in other ways. There are other things that are just as important as making more money for the economy or the economy growing and growing and growing. We have to look at how are our children doing? How is healthcare doing? All these other factors. How is the housing? How is all these things that is just as important in order for the economy to do well? How are those things going as well? And we need to find a way to factor that in. But for right now, GDP is mainly how we continue to spend more and more and more money. And so the idea of having enough is just something we do not take into account societally. It's not something we think about societally. And I'll say in my own world, that is something that I have to deal with. One of the hardest questions that I've had to ask myself is, what will be enough? What is enough for me? What would be the point that I get to where I say, you know what? I don't want to play this game anymore. I don't want to continue going through the rat race. I don't want to do all of these things. What is that number? What is that thing? At what point will it be enough? And this is a hard question to answer. Because as I'm looking at my career, I'm going to make more money this year than I made last year. And I'm going to make more money next year than I did this year. And I'm going to make more money the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. Which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing to strive to do better. It's a good thing to strive to want more. It's a good thing to strive to get to the next level. But at some point, when do we take our ball home and say, you know what? I've had enough. This is good. This is enough. Because one of the things that we can easily run into, especially for those of us who are striving to do better, if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to make money. You're going to be rich. You're going to be wealthy. One of the things we can run into is we stay on this pedestal of, I need more, I need more, I need more. And American culture definitely pushes you to that extent of get more, get more, get more, get more, get more. And so I was sitting down and thinking, why exactly do I feel a need to get more and more and more. And two things really stuck out to me, but probably one main thing that ended up drawing out and leading to another thing. And the main thing I've noticed is the idea of social comparison. The idea of social comparison. Now, it's so interesting how this works. It's very interesting how our need and our desire to live up to the standards of society actually pushes us further away from where we actually want to be. Let me explain something. If I see my friend buy himself a new car, all of a sudden, which has Android Auto or Apple CarPlay in it, all of a sudden my whole world is shattered. Social comparison. Seeing others have things or reach levels that we want to accomplish for ourselves. And so the question is like, why is that so hard? Why does it hurt us so much? And the reason comes down to one word: ego. Or as the Bible loves to talk about it, pride. Pride. Our ego and our pride hold us from being able to just say, that's okay. And the ironic thing is, because of these things, for those of us who are trying to build wealth, we actually never get to the point of building wealth. We never feel wealthy. We never feel wealthy. Because as Morgan Housel says, savings is just the difference between your income and your ego. It is just the difference between your income and your ego. In other words, in order for us to actually get to the point that we are elusively always chasing, we have to bring our ego down. Because otherwise, every time we earn more money, our lifestyle will just creep up. Our lifestyle will just match it. So you meet somebody who is earning over $200,000 at my age, but yet they're in debt for over $20,000. And you look at them and you ask, my guy, what is going on? What is going on? And you ask them, are you rich? And what will they tell you? They'll turn and say to you, I'm not rich. I'm just middle class. I'm not rich. I'm just middle class. But my guy, you're making $200,000 a year. And you know why? Because every time they earn more, they look at other people doing all these different things, their lifestyle creep edge up. They do more stuff. Now it's no longer, I just need a vacation to go to New York. Now I need to fly to Milan. I need to fly to Greece. I need to fly to this place and that place. Now, don't get me wrong. Please do not get me wrong. I'm not saying any of these things are wrong, but I'm saying we need to check ourselves. Because all of a sudden, it's not enough. Nothing is enough anymore. Every time we make more, we spend more. And like I said earlier, the difference between you being able to build wealth versus not build wealth is getting to a point where you actually understand this right here is good. This right here, what I have is good. What I have right now is solid. If we never get to the point where we can say this level playing ground. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't go out there and make more money. Definitely make more money now. Definitely make more money. But at some point, we have to reach a place where we're like, you know what? My life is good. I don't need the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. I don't need the things that they're showing me on Instagram. I don't need the lifestyle that I see my friends living. I don't need the lifestyle of the rich and famous. I don't need all of these things. I'm good. I'm good. This is okay. And then that's when you truly become rich. That's when you truly become wealthy. It's when you look around and you say, man, I am blessed. This is wonderful. But that is a hard place to get to. That is a hard and difficult place to get to. Because all we see in our society, all we are taught is more is better. More is better. Buy more things. Go on more trips. Buy the bigger house. Buy more cars. Buy the fancier car. Buy newer clothes. Buy new shoes. Go out to dinner every night. More, and more. Why the thing people say, why would you live a life less than you could possibly live? Live it up. YOLO. But that's the truth. YOLO, you only live once. You only live once, but you can live life well enough. You can live life well enough. And so the question that we all have to ask ourselves is, what is enough for me? What is enough for me? And I believe this saying, I love to say this saying has the answers that we need. It is, I heard it on the show Jalen and Jacoby, and I'm so sad that they canceled it on ESPN because Jacoby left and he went elsewhere. Man, I love that show. I learned so much from that show. But one of the things I learned, Jacoby always used to say, happiness is the result of realistic expectations. Happiness is the result of realistic expectations. I mentioned earlier that one of the biggest issues we have is our ego, our pride. And the reason why our pride grows bigger and bigger is our eyes get wide and our expectations grow larger and larger and larger. And so we live a life where we look at everybody else and we expect it to go a very particular type of way. And then all of a sudden, it's not good enough anymore, the life that we currently have. And so one of the things we have to actively work on, I'm not saying do not expect to do great things, but you have to be very mindful of the expectations that you have for yourself. There are core things that I hold on to, but then everything else I hold loosely. And so here are 3 questions that we need to all ask ourselves. 1, what matters to me? What truly matters to me? What are the most important things for me? Not for your brother, not for your mom, not for your aunt, not for your dad, not for social media. What truly matters to you? Number 2, what will I never risk to have more? What will I never risk for more? Because there's always going to be opportunities. A bigger job, a fancier job. But it comes at a cost. It always comes at a cost. I love what the Bible says. It says, count the cost. Does a man who is building a house not first count the cost of the materials he will need? Count the cost. And number 3, what is the minimum I need to be truly happy? To live a joyous life? What is the minimum I need to live a joyous life? I wrote a blog post. I'll link it down in the show notes and in the description. It was titled, Celebrate the Mundane Things. Celebrate the ordinary things. Because I believe this is how we get to a place where we begin to reach for that word enough, where we begin to be okay with how life is. I want to share with y'all, I believe this is the ultimate way of like succinctly putting all of these things. This is a prayer from Solomon in the book of Proverbs, Proverbs chapter 30, verse 7-9. And I believe this is a prayer that I want to come to. This is a place that I want to get to. This is a place that I want to get to, this place where I can pray this prayer and truly believe it in my heart of hearts. And so he said, 2 things I ask of you. And when he references you, he's talking about the Lord. He says, 2 things I ask of you. Don't deny them to me before I die. Keep falsehood and deceitful words far from me. So that's the first part. Like, help me not to lie or to be deceived. But then the second part, he says, give me neither poverty nor wealth. Feed me with the food I need. Otherwise, I might have too much and deny you, saying, who is the Lord? Or I might have nothing and steal, profaning the name of my God. This is the place. This is the actual goal. The goal is not to be as rich as Jeff Bezos or as rich as Elon Musk or to just gather more and more and more wealth. The actual goal is contentment, is to be content. And if we never get to a place of being content, we will never, ever experience true joy. And so my challenge to all of us is, can we pray this prayer and truly believe it? Now, the ironic thing is, when we accept this, when you expect the place of being content, it doesn't mean that you don't work hard, that you don't do well, that you don't strive for more. It just means that everything is a bonus. It just means that the more you add on, it's just a bonus. It's a bonus for you to not just be able to use for you and your family, but it's a bonus to bless other people as well. I love what Charlie Munger said when people asked him like, oh, how did you become this rich? And he said, no, I wasn't aiming to be rich. I just wanted to be financially independent. And it seems like I overshot. And so the question for us is, what does that look like? What does it look like for us to actually enjoy life? To get to a point where we are content and we can say, like Joseph Heller said, I have enough. But anyway, that's all I got for us today. I hope y'all learned one, maybe two things out of this entire thing. And if you did, share this podcast with one person that you love, one person that you hate, and one person you're just kind of like, about. And by that time, you'd have shared it with every single person that you know. But it's been your boy Kelechi. Thank y'all so much for listening, and thank y'all so much for watching. I'm going to catch y'all up in the next one. Remember, generosity is always greater than greed. God bless each and every single one of y'all. And I'm out. Peace. Whoosh.